Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I have some meditations that I'm going to read here in just a second, or a meditation that I'm going to read here in a second. We'll look through the books and see which one I'm going to read from, but have the Melody Beatty books. But before I get into that, I wanted to make a little announcement over here. I am pre-filming this video, actually, to post later in the week, but I wanted to make sure that I came on here and I let you guys know what was going on. For those of you that watch this channel regularly, I didn't want anybody to worry about where I was or anything like that. Usually, before I go out of town and I go on vacation, I try to pre-film a bunch of videos and all that kind of stuff. And I've been doing that. I've been trying to pre-film videos, but like back in the day, I would literally, before I went on vacation, if we were going for like 5 days or 10 days, you know, I would pre-film a video for every channel for every day almost that I was gone. And then other than my drama channel and my vlog channel, I would just post those while we were on vacation. And so we're getting ready to go on vacation. We're going to Florida for Ultra Music Festival. We are leaving on Thursday. And so, you know, I always try to like get in my head. I have like lists made. Okay, these are going to be all the videos I'm going to film for Thursday. These are all the videos I'm going to film for Friday to have pre-filmed and stuff like that. So that while I'm down there, you know, I can just, you know, be with my husband and enjoy that time and whatever. And then just do my vlog later in the day, which I love doing the vacation vlogs because I get to let everybody know what's going on. And it's kind of my way to kind of like, you know, relax at the end of the day and all that. But I usually try to pre-film a ton of videos. And this time I was like, you know what, you're going to do something a little bit different. You're not going to, I think in January I didn't do that as well. And so, but I did want to make at least one video so that you guys didn't, if I hadn't posted in several days in a row, you'd be like, where's Peter? If you don't watch my vlog or you don't watch my drama channel, you might not know that. So, I just want to come over here and let you guys know that we're going to be gone for a few days. And when I get back, I will be back to regularly filming on this channel. Going into the next few months, my plan is to film over here at least 3 to 4 times a week. And so that's my plan going forward, going into late spring and early summer. So I'm really excited to come over here. I've got some ideas for some new things that I'm going to be doing on this channel. Some new places that I'm going to be filming. When it gets a little warmer outside, I'm going to take the camera into the woods and I'm going to do some just meditations and thoughtful thinking from the woods. I'm also going to sit in the backyard. I've got maybe by the pool, do a couple of meditations. I've got all different kinds of places to do some meditations and have some conversations with you guys about all different kinds of things. So I just want to let you guys know that when I get back, I will be back to regularly filming over here. That being said, I just want to say, in my last video, I believe, or one of my last videos, I said that if you guys, if you wanted to, or my last video that I posted before I'm filming this one, if you guys wanted to reach out to me in direct messages on Instagram, it's really the only social media that I'm active on anymore, or email me, you could, about topics that you wanted me to discuss, and then I would make videos about that. I just want to say, I got several messages from people. I think I got like 8 or 10 messages from people asking me about some very specific things, and I'm going to broaden those into more broad topics, and then I will be addressing those. So I just want to make that clear. I got your messages. I think a couple of you I commented back to and said thank you for sending this to me. I screenshot the messages. I am saving them, and I will be addressing them later. People ask me about addiction stuff. People ask me about grieving. People ask me about all different kinds of things. So, I have saved those, and I will be making those videos when I come back. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you guys for reaching out to me. If more of you want to reach out to me, please feel free to do that. If you have topics that you want me to talk about. A couple of you, I think, even commented on the video, so I appreciate that as well. Like if I get a couple of messages about kind of the same topic, I'll kind of try to like, you know, move it into a more generalized video. So, but thank you so much for that. Okay, let's get into the meditation. So I have a couple days that I can pick from, right? So let's go in here and see. Today, well, if it was Thursday, it would be March 27th. So let's look and see what March 27th says before I, afterburn. This might be good. Going on vacation. Afterburn, March 27th. How could I do it? How could I say it? Even though I meant it, and this is from the language of letting go. How could I do it? How could I say it? Even though I meant it, I still feel ashamed, guilty, and afraid. This is a common reaction to new, exciting recovery behaviors. Anything to do with owning our power and taking care of ourselves can trigger feelings of shame, guilt, and fear. We do not have to allow these feelings to control us. They're a backlash. They're afterburn. Let them burn out. When we start confronting and attacking feelings and messages, we will experience some afterburn. The afterburn is what we allowed to control us all our life. Shame and guilt. Many of us grew up with shame-based messages that it wasn't okay to take care of ourselves, be honest, be direct, and own our power with people. Many of us grew up with messages that it wasn't okay to be who we were and resolve problems in relationships. Many of us grew up with the message that what we want and need isn't okay. Let it all burn off. We don't have to take afterburn so seriously. We don't let the afterburn convince us that we are wrong and don't have a right to take care of ourselves and set boundaries. Do we really have the right to take care of ourselves? Do we really have the right to set boundaries? Do we really have the right to be direct and say what we need to say? You bet we do. Today, I will let any afterburn which sets in after I practice a new recovery behavior burn off. I will not take it so seriously. God, help me let go of my shame and needless fears about what will happen to me if I really start caring for and loving myself. I think it's a really valuable meditation. You know, I can remember when I first got sober, and one of the things that I heard from a lot of people is that you know, it's not about shame and blame. It's not about guilt and remorse. That those emotions are very real emotions, but they really don't achieve a lot, you know? If you think about how, like, shameful or remorseful you felt, or how guilty you feel, which I have felt all of those emotions, I mean, even as of recently, I think those are natural responses to things. If you think about them, not really much positive comes from those feelings. It's what do you do after those feelings? What do you do with it? What's the action that you take after that? I think that's the question today, you know? I think it's interesting when it talks in here about growing up in these homes, and it said many of us grew up with shame-based messages that it wasn't okay to take care of ourselves, be honest, be direct, and own our power with people. Many of us grew up with messages that it wasn't okay to be who we were and resolve problems in relationships. You know, both of those things are so powerful to me because, number one, you know, I did not grow up in a family where either one of my parents or aunts, uncles, grandparents, anybody said, don't talk about this. Don't say this. These are family secrets. We keep them inside the family. I didn't have that. That was never said to me. I have since I've got, you know, grown into adulthood, had so many friends of mine that have told me stories where their parents or family members or grandparents would say, we don't talk about this outside the family. They would literally say that. I'm sure some of you have experienced that, where they would say that, right? Even though it was never said, I knew there were things that you didn't talk outside of our family. My mom's drinking was one of them. You know, I think everybody knew that my mom had a drinking problem. It was something that I know I definitely was aware of. And my mom was even aware of it. My mom and I can remember even having conversations about it, you know, where I would say something like, Mom, have you been drinking? Like, I can remember calling her from my dad's house, and she would be like, you know, the next day she would say, I'm so sorry that, you know, Mom had been drinking or whatever. I mean, it was a conversation. We never really confronted it, but I do remember that I was really heavily involved in therapy when I was a kid. When my parents got divorced, that was one of the things they did. I don't really remember bringing it up a whole lot in therapy. And I think out of protection from my mom. I think that's something that we learn when we're growing up. You know, my mom was not a bad person. She was not a horrible person. My mother was an alcoholic in active addiction. And she did the best that she could. I think that when we're in situations like that, I think it teaches us abusive patterns for down the road, that we try to protect that person at any expense. So I wasn't going to go into a therapy session, and it felt to me very much like selling my mother out. It felt very much like, I know my mom loves me. I know she's doing, I felt like even as a kid, I think sometimes as a kid we understand it more than we do as adults. I think I understood compassion a little bit more as a kid. Like, I knew that I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the drinking. I didn't understand all that. But I knew that my mom loved me. And I knew that my mom cared about me, and I knew that this was something that was out of her control. It felt that way to me. I can remember getting very mad, you know, in middle school, early high school, even when I started drinking. I can remember just like pouring the alcohol down the drain. I was so angry at the alcohol. It was easier to be angry at the alcohol than it was at my mom. But this idea of not even being honest with people about it, you know, what's interesting is later, you know, in late high school and then graduating from high school, friends of mine that I was friends with, like these girls that I was friends with in high school, later when we were talking, several of my friends had parents that had addiction issues, and we never talked about it when we were in high school. I mean, what a group of support that would have offered us for me to say, oh my God, like my mom is so drunk tonight. Like the power of one person sharing with another person is so powerful. It's what 12-step programs are based on. If I could have called up one of my friends at any of those times I was so frustrated with my mom and said, oh my God, my mom's drunk. And my friend would say to me, I know what it's like. I'm going through that. My dad's the same way. How powerful that would have been to have that support. But I think it was so ingrained in us, you just don't take things out of the family. Even to your friends, I wouldn't say stuff. I mean, we would make jokes about our parents, but I would never to the full extent be like, because I felt like I was selling my mom out to some extent, protecting her. Well, I carried that behavior into relationships, into romantic relationships, into friendships. I carried that relationship, I carried those things into relationships in adulthood until I learned how to set healthy boundaries and limits. So I think that idea of not being able to be honest with people is something that I learned in childhood about not being able to be honest about my circumstances, not being able to feel like I was honest and needing to protect the people around me at any expense. That's a heavy burden to put on a kid. And then you become an adult and that pattern is already set and you do that for other people. I can remember being in romantic relationships where I could see the way that I was acting was almost exactly like the bargaining and the pleading and the begging was almost exactly, and this was before I got sober, but a little bit even after I got sober until I started getting real healthy. It was almost exactly how I acted with my mom, when my mom was in her active addiction. It was very similar to that. And I would see myself doing it. And I'd be like, what are you doing? Like this is something that you did at 5 years old. And yet here you are as an adult and you're doing it, and I could see it. Well, awareness, like I've said, is always the first thing. And then it's putting it into action. I don't want to sit and blame myself or live in shame and guilt and all that kind of stuff. That's not healthy for me to do today. Today, it's healthier for me to say, okay, that's the feeling, the response that I have to it. What am I going to do with that? How am I going to respond to that? So that's the first part of what she said that just really, really stood out to me. The second part of what she said was, that's the messages that we grew up with that taught us that it wasn't okay to be who we were. That was the second part for me. At home, the opposite of home was true to me, to the other place, was that at home, my parents were like, put on shows, dress up, do whatever you want to do, be who you are. I don't know that I would have understood it at 8 years old if they would have said, lean into being authentic, be whoever you are. You want to dance, you want to do whatever you want to do. Translated into 40, 50-year-old Peter flipping fans and stuff. But that's who I was able to be at home, around my parents, around my parents' friends, my stepmother, my grandparents. I mean, they never thought twice about it. They just were like, oh, look, and they embraced it. I think it's not just that. It wasn't that they just allowed me to be who I was. It was that they also embraced it. It was those things that made me different. I think this is so important when we talk about parenting. It wasn't that they were just like, that's okay. And that, oh, isn't Peter funny, or he's entertaining, or, he's dancing to the song, or, he's doing make-believe to the Annie soundtrack or whatever. It wasn't just that. It was that they leaned into it. They embraced it. They let me know that those were the things about me that they loved. That was important, okay? Because that came up in adulthood. But when I would go to school, what I realized was around other kids that I couldn't be that version of myself, because that version of myself wasn't normal. I'm 52 years old. I don't even know what normal means today. But I knew that what I was not normal. What I know today is nobody's normal. We're all completely different. How boring the world would be if we were all the same. But I would go to school and I would be a very dulled down, muted version of myself, quiet. I was scared to even speak in class because if I spoke, somebody laughed and it started this whole thing. I was such a dulled down version of myself that I never really, even in high school, I started expressing myself a little bit through how I dressed, but I never really fully got to be who I was, which I think my confidence hid inside there. So I was really never that confident in high school. I was never proud of myself. I never stood up for myself, which was, I think I look back on all that, and that was the repercussions of feeling like I wasn't normal. It was also protection. It was also protection because that carried into my adulthood as well. It was also protection that if you're too loud, if you are too much of who you are, people won't like it. They've already told you they don't like who you are, right? So when we talk about why are we bringing these things up from our childhood, that's a lesson that it took me 35 years to unlearn. I mean, even longer than that, probably till my late 40s, where I was like, this is who I am, and the people that love it and the people that love me are going to love that about me. And the people that don't, they aren't. It's like, Each of my friends is so unique and different. My husband, everybody in my life is so unique and different. But it's like, do you ever see like that moment, that glimpse, of somebody like when their like true authentic self comes out and they tell like a real funny story. And it's like you're mesmerized in that moment and you realize like, oh my God, like I am seeing their soul in action. This is what I love about them. Wouldn't it be so powerful if we could just live in that all the time? But these childhood messages that we were sent, to keep secrets, not be honest with even those people that we love about how we feel about things, not allowing ourselves to be who we really are. Those are things that we learned, before 3rd grade. And then we carry them into adulthood, at least I did. And that's where the shame and the guilt comes from. Part of the shame and the guilt comes from I never allowed myself to live a full life. I never allowed myself to be who I truly am, But I'm not hung up on that today. I'm not. Today, I act the way that I want to. Today, I am who I am. Today, I need to live out loud. And I need to, be honest about the conditions of my life. And I need to allow myself to dance when I want to dance and wear what I want to wear, and share my feelings and my emotions on my sleeve. And that's who I am as a person, I can remember when I first started like crying on YouTube and people were like, oh my God, you're a grown man and you're crying. And I can remember being like, oh, maybe I shouldn't cry. See that message right there? That message goes all the way back to when I was in school of what I shouldn't be. And then I thought, why shouldn't a grown man cry on camera? What's wrong with that? The grown men in my life that have cried have taught me, and the grown women have taught me that it's okay to cry. That actually showing emotion is a strength. Not showing emotion is fear. Not crying when it's appropriate is fear. Because you're afraid of what people will think of you. So I cry on video. So what? Who cares, right? But life is too short. Life is too short to be a dulled down version of yourself. And life is also too short to live by the rules and the messages that you heard before you were even in 5th grade, And that was something that I had to teach myself. So anyway, great meditation today. Brought up a lot of stuff from the past, stuff I still need to work on, obviously, as well. I will be back soon. I can't wait to get back here and do some fun things this spring and summer. I love you guys, and I will see you when I get back. Bye.